What is the spring market 2026?
Inventory is low, prices are up, tons of buyers out there. What would be your seller takeaways?
I think confidence is really important. It's easy to get contracts and it's hard to get them to the finish line. Okay, we are back, episode 37. And if you haven't been able to tell, I brought my favorite guy to talk real estate with.
Big guns.
The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Matt Dollinger. And today we are going to break down what is the spring market 2026.
Pause.
That's me actually melting into my seat because I don't know the correct adjective to use for what's going on in our spring market. But we're here as experts and we're going to break it down. So Mr. Dollinger is here to hand out virtual hugs to everybody. And I'm going to try and break down what the heck is happening out there. I almost swore there because I actually found out on the last episode our ratings were up because I did swear more. And I don't like to swear, but I might.
You're going to say we're demonetized or something like that.
Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about what has happened so far in 2026 Chicago market. Now, as I always start, a couple of disclosures. Real estate is local. So what we say today doesn't impact everybody. We're talking on a vast generalization of the neighborhoods that we are experts in.
Correct.
Essentially, the data is the north side of Chicago, loop all the way up to Rogers Park, as far west as Humboldt Park, Portage Park, Jefferson Park, and everything in between. We will also break things down between condos and single families because there are some differentials there as well. But this is just what's happening high level, although it sometimes feels like it's everywhere.
It's just, this is to get a glimpse into it because everything that people are watching right now, everything that people are reading right now, it's like, oh, the Chicago metro area, which includes Joliet and Naperville. Or it's,
I can't even get to Joliet without GPS, just so we're clear.
Just so you know, look for the data center, I think, that they're building out there. But it's really, it's to give people an idea of what we're seeing in our larger community. And then if they want more information or if they really want to know what's going on in their neighborhood, block by block, you're the one to talk to.
Call me.
All right. So kicking it off just right now, it's like on paper.
I'm ready, coach. Put me in.
Put me in. On paper, this spring market looks very confusing. Headlines of general, what's going on in the U.S., things along those lines, stuff like that. It's like, what kind of market are we actually in right now?
So I can answer that by saying the emoji that I've used more often in the last 4 months is the melting one. The melting one explains my head of what's been happening in the spring market to a T.
So not the warheads one where your head's exploding up. It's actually melting.
It's melting.
Okay, got it. All right.
Like the Wicked Witch of the West.
Oh, wow.
With my broomstick. Anyways, what is happening out there and why is it so confusing? The reason it's so confusing is absolutely 100% the media.
Oh, yeah.
The media is having its way with us right now. And let me put down my soapbox and get on it because we know that I have a lifelong relationship with the media and their tactics when it comes to real estate. Right?
Not a good relationship either, but yeah.
I mean, I'm very happy in my own relationship.
Can't all be perfect, right?
So the biggest part of why it's confusing really comes back to the headlines. The headlines are very confusing. They're very sporadic, and they most certainly do not tell the full story. And that's important for us to know. So what is happening out there and how is the media screwing it up? Well, let's start with the basics. We have seen that our inventory that was slight to begin with has gone down the toilet.
Wait, didn't on the market report
I guessed this.
Yes,
I said it.
You went against your hope, your hope, and you literally said
I said inventory is going down the tubes again, and certainly it is. There are some markets that are down another 10, 20, 30% in terms of the amount of inventory. Now, this is where it gets confusing because in theory, that doesn't mean we have less buyers. We just have less homes to sell. So in theory, once again, that makes that market more competitive.
Yep.
But the number of sales goes down. And that's the key token point that the media grasps onto. They'll tell you that home sales in Lincoln Park are down 20%. They're not going to tell you that we have 30% less homes to sell people.
What you're saying is that there have to be homes for people to buy for those
ding,
sales
ding,
to
ding,
happen.
ding, 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 ding,
Yes.
ding, 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 ding.
Sweet. You can tell I tutor my 9-year-old on math.
Absolutely, 100%. If we lose inventory, and right, this is We're in a market that I do not want to be an expert in anymore. I'm tired of it. I'm sick of it. I'd like to read a new book. I don't believe in burning books, but the book of some version of COVID is one that I am ready to light up in flames. So anyway, so if we see that we have less homes to sell more people, because there's still people from last year that didn't get their homes, those markets are going to become more competitive. More competitive means that those prices are going to go up, but the number of sales are going to go down, and that's where the media gets you, and that's where it gets to be confusing.
I think the big thing is that not only did the people last year who were looking for homes who didn't get them are looking now, but the people before then who didn't get homes are looking now. And so we're just literally bottlenecking all of those people who are just hoping that something is going to come or their contract's going to be accepted or something along those lines. So it's literally a snowball effect. And I think that inventory, I'm detecting a theme here. This inventory thing is going to be a big thing in our podcast today.
Well, I mean, the reality is it's an ongoing piece. And once again, the media comes in and the media says, ooh, we're on the brink of a housing crisis. Ooh, buyer beware. There are definitely parts of the country that are seeing very different things than what we're seeing in a metropolitan area. And that is a huge discussion. But our inventory can't grow at the same rate when we talk about our urban neighborhoods as a lot of other places. Right. We can't just go 500 units, 1,000 more. It just doesn't happen. We don't have the space. We don't have the ability to build. Developers don't want to really build in Chicago. There's another topic.
Right. So let's break this down. We could go down rabbit holes of this all day long and things like that. But let's take a look at the metrics. So when we're looking at like January to April of this year versus 2025.
Okay.
What are we looking at for numbers? Sold price, inventory, things along those lines.
So if we're going to take the city as a whole, which we shouldn't, but we do, on the north side,
yes,
condos, townhomes, single family homes, everything, our home values, the prices are up over 4%, 4.1%.
Okay. Just like early spring market.
Just early spring, just
January
starting out
to April.
And
super.
Here's your asterisk. A lot of what's in the first half of spring market went under contract in the end of last year.
Sure.
So that's not even, in my opinion, a true definition of what's happening out there. That's just a scratching the surface of what's happening out there.
So the people who are like the data that we've recorded. So April being the most recent data that we have on record. When do you think that probably went under contract? When did those buyers decide that that was the house they were going to buy and decide on that price?
I would say in the city tends to be somewhere between, on average, 30 to 60 days.
Okay.
But it could, depending on the seller situation, creep up to 92.
Okay. So we've got that. Our inventory, how much is our inventory down just compared to last year? Like this time last year.
And we didn't have enough last year.
Right.
But we're down about another 18%.
18%. Mm-hmm. And we were down the year before.
We haven't seen growth in 6 years.
I got it. Okay. And I assume that translates into everything selling quicker than before.
Sure, because we don't have as many homes.
Great.
Now, interestingly enough, our closed sales are only down just under 10%.
Okay. So this is what you were talking about.
So we have almost 20% less homes to sell, but our sales are only down 10%.
So does that mean that people are not
buying the crap that they usually wouldn't? Yes. Yes, 100%, because they're desperate and they want a house. No, it just means that the margins, the month supply, all the measurement tools, the metrics are showing that we have less and less homes and more people buying them.
Got it.
They're more cutthroat, more competitive. And I will say, hands down, I've done this for 24 years. This is the most competitive market I have ever been in my career.
Ever. So when you read the headlines, Sun Times, Tribune, Cranes, something along those lines, and they say the market is slower, and they quote that there's 20% less homes sold or 12% less homes sold than last year, that they're not necessarily representing the facts correctly.
Nope. They're using one data point and creating a story out of it.
Got it. So a lot of people hear that prices are up, but I heard you talking the other day that list prices haven't necessarily followed the same trajectory. It doesn't necessarily make sense to me, and maybe some other people as well. So why is this distinction important between list price and sold price? So
there is one line that I have repeated more times in the last 6 years than probably anything else. And when I talk to sellers, I say flat out, this is the type of market that it is next to impossible to underprice a home, but it is incredibly easy to overprice. What do I mean by that? because of the way the market is going to come in and assess your house, the reality is that there aren't enough homes. People are going to rush to it. They're going to come see it. They're going to want to buy it, right? And if it feels like it's priced accurately or even below value, the market will then bid it up to the sky's the limit in some cases, right?
Gotcha.
There are certain homes that are selling at prices they absolutely shouldn't. But it'll bid it up to a price that the market can bear. If you are an ounce overpriced, we see the adverse reaction.
Sure.
Why? Because all those people are coming in and they're so conditioned now. It's like those first showing windows, open houses, they all come in and say, when's your deadline for offers? What are the seller's conditions that they're looking for? Okay, keep me in the loop. I want to write an offer.
So they're expecting a competitive situation.
Yes.
Okay.
Not in every market, but in most.
Gotcha.
And so they come in and do that. Now, they may love the property, but when they go home and they look at the comparables with their agent and they're educating on it, if it feels high, they're so certain that a competitive situation is going to push it somewhere that it really, really shouldn't, that they're hesitant.
Right.
Now, if they're low, they're still willing to go to a ridiculously high number because they have confidence in that.
They've got skin in the game at that point.
They've got skin in the game and they still feel like I can somewhat justify this.
Right.
But with some markets pricing so far above what they are, if it's priced high, they get worried that it's going to go to a point of essentially no return. Mm-hmm. Luckily, I have very few examples of the negative side.
Right. But no, you had a listing in, was it Lincoln Park or Lakeview? That you...
Oh, the successful one.
Yes, the successful one. So tell us a little bit about that, like what you... So
one of the markets that is truly insane right now is what we would consider a first-time buyer market in Lakeview and Lincoln Park, right? Yep. These are people whose leases are coming up, really want to get into the market. Maybe they were looking the year before or the year before, weren't successful, renewed the leases, but our entry-level market for Lincoln Park and Lakeview, 2-bedroom. And it's been cutthroat and insane.
Right.
If we're going to kind of put a price range in there, I'd say somewhere between $400,000 and $600,000.
Okay.
Yes, we are in a metropolitan city, and yes, that is entry level for some people.
In those neighborhoods.
In those neighborhoods, yes. We have a lot of diversity and a lot of other options, but those are top tier neighborhoods that come with top tier things.
Right.
I had a 2-bedroom, 1-bath.
Without parking.
No parking. I told the clients that the value range based on the comps was somewhere between $450,000 and $475,000. And that I thought we can get competitive. What I see most is if you're on the more aggressive side, we see higher numbers. We had about 75 groups come through over the course of 3 days. We ended up with 33 offers. 33. I kid you not.
33 offers.
I had 32 groups of people that were very unhappy with me, no matter how kind I was about everything we were going through.
It's like a 2-page spreadsheet.
At least. He knows I love my spreadsheets. Anyways, we are selling $130,000 above the list with all contingencies waived. Essentially, you're buying an as-is condition. You're giving them a free rent back. You're waiving your financing contingency. You're giving a kidney. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. There's no way that house should ever sell for that amount of money. And it's the same reason why I have a lot of buyers in this market. If they don't have to do something right now,
right,
I'm practicing a lot of patience with them because certain parts of the market will seem more intense in certain months. So and we're experiencing that. Now, not everyone has the luxury of time.
Sure.
So sometimes it financially makes sense for somebody to do something. But a lot of my renters will tell you, extend the lease all day long and we're going to sublet it when we find the place.
Yeah. I mean, I know that you had said beforehand that we've saw, especially with sold prices, things that have closed 30, 60 days beforehand or something like that. But when I was crunching the data, the biggest thing that I saw that I couldn't get over was when I looked at the numbers of January, February, March, and then I saw April numbers, and especially like the April detached home numbers. And those were like 20% higher than last year. So talk to me a little bit about that. Like what I think
there's a couple different things going on there. First and foremost, as we say, the numbers when you're going to actually talk about them as closed,
right,
that means they're sold, closed, signed, sealed, delivered, transaction is essentially done. Now, there may be a post-possession. That's something we're seeing a lot of. But the transaction is stamped close. Okay, so if we're closing in April, that means we contracted most likely in January, February, March.
Right.
Right? So the data before then could very well be something that went under contract November or December, or maybe the beginning of January before we hit any momentum. So to see a big jump in that month tells me two things. It tells me, one, it could be a little bit timing. It tells me, two, right? January was competitive. Heck, December was a little competitive. I had a couple multiple bids in December that made me think that this spring market is going to be one that we are holding on for. And it's been that way. But so if those things are happening and the momentum, people are realizing a little bit more of what they need to do. And then the further we start to get in spring market, when they're not seeing the inventory come and they're realizing it's more competitive, then they start swinging the bat a little bit harder.
That was going to be.
Now, the other thing I was going to say, not to cut you off, but the other thing I was going to say was that when people are looking for a single family home, that's usually a longer term home. Right? So if we talk to clients, if I've got somebody looking to buy a 2-bedroom in Lincoln Park, I'm saying to them, you're most likely going to live in that house for 4 to 7 years, right? That's something that we have to be very cognizant of the backside.
Sure.
Because it's my responsibility to be invested in their resale, right? The sky's the limit until I have to sell it. Then the sky's no longer the limit.
Right.
But now in a single family home, and I've got a lot of people in this camp that are saying, hey, we're comfortable where we're at, but we want that next property. That's something that, you know what, especially if it's a little unique or a little bit, as you know, I like to call my unicorns, you throw the Hail Mary a little bit more because that's a house that you're looking to be in for 9, 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
Right. Those differences go away. Heck, we tell the story all the time that, I mean, it was 20 years ago, so the numbers were different, but we overpaid for our house when we bought it in 2006. If you want to know what I bought it for and what I can sell it for today, those numbers are vastly different.
But that was my question, to go back to where I was going to try to interrupt you, which was unsuccessful, was whether or not people kind of came out, or if you saw this, like people came out in January and February and they're like, oh, I'm coming to the market early. It's not going to be as competitive. I don't have to go crazy, or I don't have to, like, did you kind of see that as well? Like people kind of coming into the market earlier and expecting it to be a little less competitive and then being like, I'll curse because it's okay. Oh shit, I got to get my ass in gear and step up to the plate.
Nobody cares when you curse. It's just when I'm caught on camera doing it. I think there's some things to that, but the interesting thing, and we've been talking about this part for 6 years, is that our spring market, the start of it keeps creeping earlier and earlier. We used to say after Super Bowl Sunday, right? That was forever. And then since COVID hit, we said, oh, okay, well, it's really the end of January. And then all of a sudden it's the middle of January. And well, heck, it's January. It feels like crap outside, but let's call it spring. So that date has been creeping up. This past year, I kid you not, I wrote multiple offers in multiple bids like December 15th. And that's exactly when I knew, heck, we better buckle up because we're in for a bumpy ride next year. If I'm writing offers with 7 other people competing in the middle of December, that it was just a taste of what was to come.
Switching gears to something much more positive. Buyer fatigue. I hear you use this a lot, is buyer fatigue. And I can only imagine the toll that this takes. What's the reality of the buyer out there today?
You know, it's a really hard market to be a buyer in. I mean, truth be told, and nobody wants to hear this, it's a bad, tiring market. It's an exhausting market for buyers, for sellers, because you got to remember, if there's sellers somewhere, they're probably buyers somewhere else.
Exactly.
The agents on both sides of the transactions, the lenders, the attorneys, everybody in between is feeling the toll of what's happening out there. The market is incredibly fast and it is incredibly unkind.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of one of the things, like, right? And I try, when I start with a buyer, I try and set up a very realistic expectation, because my hope is when they hit that point where they're going, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this isn't, like, right? I had this vision of what
I hear these phone calls and it's like, it makes my heart bleed.
Go back to the melting emoji. No, but it's one of those things that I try and set it up from the beginning and say, guys, this is going to be hard. This is not like what you saw in the romantic comedy where they went out and they were giggling and they were laughing and they saw 6 houses and they said, oh my God, I like this one best. And then they went home and they thought about it for 3 days. And then they called their agent and said, yes, that's it. Make it happen.
Wait, you're saying real estate isn't like HGTV?
Certain parts are just only the things they show in the wee hours of the night. Right. It's cutthroat. So basically I set it up to say, we're going to educate. we're going to educate as best we can because it's not like it used to be. We can't go out and see 6 properties and say, what do you think about this? And what do you think about this? And what do you think about this? Instead, we're essentially going to go to house parties at these places in very specific amounts of time with 100 people that you don't know and you don't want to be that close to. You're barely going to be able to see the property in certain instances. And then you're going to get a phone call within 24 hours saying, do you like it or not? Because we have to make a decision right now and we have to put our best foot forward. That's what a lot of these markets are like.
2 things. First of all, when you said house party, all I could think about was kid and play. But so essentially, you need to really put on your therapist hat and condition your buyers that are coming into the market here about what to expect and how this is going to happen so that they're not losing all hope that they're ever going to get a home, move up to a home, get their kids and their dogs out of the 1-bedroom apartment or whatever it is.
It's one of those things that I hope that, and I try and manage a lot of the expectations as we go through it, right? Some people I just start to find that they just start wanting to see things and write offers just out of momentum.
Sure.
But that kind of allowing people to do that is something that can actually work against them in the long term. And so it's trying to be very selective in what we do and intentional. I think the hardest part right now is how do we educate? How do we get people to understand what they actually like? Because otherwise they're walking in the first one and say, sure, I guess it's good enough. Should we write an offer? So whether it's
That's so sad. I remember just like just looking at this back from our perspective, like when we looked at our homes, like, there was the one with the terrible terracotta with a great location, the terrible terracotta, fireplace that was on the boat, the house that we bought. And then there was that really weird one with like the funky upstairs and the circular staircase. And I remember like us sitting down at dinner and like talking about it. What could we do? And how can you make this better? And things along those lines. I feel for folks who have to like make this kind of commitment.
No, it's hard. And that's why, like I said, I try and make sure that, a couple things are really important to me. I tell every client that we don't buy any house because of a timeline.
Yeah.
If you have a rent coming up, if your house is sold because you had to sell before you bought, whatever it is, we can help people navigate through what that looks like. Don't buy the wrong house.
Sure.
Because of a timeline. Like that is some of the worst advice. I know there's a lot of agents that said, oh, your lease is coming up. We have to get under contract. Right. Absolutely not. Extend the lease. We will help you sublet it. The rental market is just as crazy.
Right.
And we can sublet things. So take the pressures off where you can and have patience, right? If you're just writing offers to write offers, it's not worth it. Yeah. It's absolutely not worth it. Don't just put some skin in the game. Write offers on what makes sense.
Yep.
But also I think there's a big reality and I have a lot of clients that as I'm setting them up and they say, okay, we can buy up to 800. Let's say that's the number. Well, understand anything that's coming on at 800 right now, if it sells in the first week or two, it's going to be above where you're comfortable.
Yeah.
So don't torture yourself, right? Don't go walk through that house and go, oh my God, I love it. I love everything about it. Of course you do. It's going to sell outside of your price point. It's human nature to want more than we have. So I think that some of that, or I hope that some of that instruction and some of that understanding up front helps us to work with our clients to not get to that fatigue. Although I will say I do have certain clients that I've said flat out, okay, let's extend the lease. I don't want you to look at real estate listings or anything for 2 months.
Yep.
I want you to reset. Anything that's going to happen in the next 2 months is not going to be on a wavelength. We just gave you time. The second half of the year is a much more pleasant, not ideal, but a much more pleasant time to be a buyer. So let's concentrate on that. And you just go and mentally reset. Sometimes you have to do that. So it is one of those things that as an advisor, as an agent, I do need to be able to kind of judge and be able to tell where my clients are at, because the last thing I want them to do is like the white I surrender flag because they can't do it anymore. It's hard. It's very hard.
Flipping to the seller side of things, it makes it sound so easy. Like you're going to get 30 offers and they're going to be anywhere from 10 to 100.
That's not the norm.
I know. This is social. This is media, man. We got to make it big and things. But all right, so you're going to have a bunch of offers.
Okay.
A bunch of offers.
We're going to use a spreadsheet.
They're all going to be over asking price and things like that. This must be great for the sellers, because obviously you're just going to pick the one that has the highest price, right? Probably a little more complicated than that, right?
So this is a market where everybody writes offers just to think about it because they have no time. So I have clients that go, I don't know if I want it, but I don't know if I don't want it. Can I write an offer just so I can think about it longer? It is not an easy time to be a seller. The buyers think, oh, they just, as you said, they just pick whichever one they want.
Right.
It is a very easy market to get offers in. It's very difficult to get an offer to the finish line. This is a market that more deals fall apart. And I tell you, selling things for a second time, even when you have a line of people out the door, is not always easy. And the terms definitely go. So when I sit down with my clients and we look at all the terms in my spreadsheet, we look at price, net price, I should say. We look at the terms. We look at who the agent is. We look at who the attorney is, who the inspector is, who the lender is. We look at the whole package because if I have more confidence in one getting to a finish line than the highest one, that often the people that are throwing the highest numbers are sometimes the ones that have the most baggage.
Right.
If I don't think something can get to a finish line or if it has exponential risk, I will say hands down, you are taking a more risky offer. This offer has the ability to not go to the finish line. Is it enough money for you to waver with that? And for some people it is. For some people in their circumstances, we have enough backup offers. They say, let's roll the dice.
Yep.
But for a lot of people, because these deals are all contingent to a next somehow, they might say, I want the sure bet. I want something that I feel like, even if it's a little bit less money, because it's all more money than I expected.
Yep.
I want the other agent that I have more confidence in. I want the lending team. I want all these pieces that I feel best about.
Yep.
And that's what people are really looking for. They're looking in the confidence of getting to the finish line.
So let's say that comes to fruition. You pick this one. It's the highest price. You think it's going to go, turns into a shit show, doesn't close, which means that you got to start all over again, or not start all over, but you go down the line to the people who have also submitted offers.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, hey, lucky day, you get to buy this house now. And what does that end up looking like? That's got to be like, number one, it's got to be awkward. It's like, my best friend wouldn't go to, or the girl I really like didn't go to the dance with me, so I'm going to ask her ugly friend or something,
Well, there's times, especially if somebody's lost out a lot, that it just seals together and goes great. But there's times that it doesn't go so well, right? I've had it happen to me even recently where I had a buyer that she wasn't even second place, she was third place in it. The first deal fell apart. Kind of over the inspection, but kind of not.
Right.
There were enough things that came out. The building handled really well. The building jumped on because it was more of a building issue than a condo issue and said, hey, we're going to take care of that. We're going to get it done. The agent came to us next and said, Amanda, the sellers are feeling a little shaken. You are not the next best offer, but we have most confidence in you.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
I appreciate that. Let's deal with this. And I'd say 9.9 times out of 10, I am your person in that. But my client in that instance, because so much time had passed while they were under contract and because these inspection issues came out, she started to, she lost her momentum with the property.
Sure.
She started to disengage because all she could concentrate on what was wrong, what came up.
Absolutely.
And so that we tried to get her back into the property to kind of recreate that love affair, right?
Sure.
Why did you love it in the first place? But she was a little bit disenfranchised from it because she now knew some of the warts.
Sure.
And she said, you know what, as much as I know this is an opportunity, I don't feel like I can. And so that does happen too. Sometimes people, because things fall apart, and even though it's technically supposed to be an opportunity, sometimes they get a little bit of cold feet because if somebody else walked away, it starts the wheels turning.
Oh, for sure. I totally think that would be the case, is that, especially as something like it gets to further down the line, where it sounds like this happened pretty quickly. It's like, think it happens like 20 some days down the line.
Yes.
And then something happens and you're going back and these offers aren't there anymore or whatever. And you have to remarket it. And these people are like, oh, what happened? All of a sudden that wow amazement turns into scrutiny, and they're not like just enamored with 100 people coming through the home. They're looking for,
it's a market,
for a problem.
It's a market that you can't recreate a first impression.
For sure.
And that can be a big deal. And it's funny, I've got certain clients that I tell if things come on at the high end of the range, I say, we won't see it the first week, but we'll see it the second week. The price, if it lasts through the first week versus what it'll sell for in just the second week, could be dramatically different.
Transitioning into that, we've got inventory is low, prices are up, tons of buyers out there. Everybody's talking about this and stuff like that. What are sellers getting wrong in this market?
I think what sellers are getting wrong is that where it's a seller's market, they can't do anything.
Right.
They don't have complete control of it. And so if they take a misstep, or if they trip over their own feet, or if they don't listen to advice, it's not a market that will just forgive that behavior, right? It is a market that is very, very critical on a seller side of those things.
Sure.
And it's something that can, at the end of the day, cost a lot of money. I've lost listings because I've been so emphatic about not feeling comfortable to what I think overpriced something.
Sure.
And because I will walk away from something and say, hey, I truly in my heart of hearts knows that that's going to get you to a not great position at the end of the day. And that's really where we have to be careful on these things, is that, it's our job to advise and counsel. Mm-hmm. That advice and counsel is hopefully to set up a really, really great reaction. Now, at the end of the day, I'm not the decision maker. And so, especially with clients that I've worked with for a long term, I will speak my piece. Now, certain decisions I will be emphatic about and say, if this is really what you want to do, I'm not the person to take you there because I don't want to take you to a bad spot.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's even small things that they say, hey, we want to test this with you, but we'll then change it afterwards.
Well, I would just think that as prices are going up, continuing to go up, competition is going
Sold
up.
prices.
Sorry, specify. Sold prices are going up. People are paying. There's no longer value, isn't really necessarily in our conversation. Sure, every once in a while, whatever. But if people are expecting to pay a premium, they're aren't they kind of expecting a premium at the same time? Like from the minute they walk into that unit, aren't they expecting oh, this is going to tap the top of my price range and everything like that? I'm kind of expecting something awesome.
The presentation.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of how you're presenting. There are certain things that the market will be forgiving of.
Okay.
And if you need the market to be forgiving, you need to also be more aggressive in your pricing, right? Right? Because at some point there's a tipping point.
You're dipping into the value.
Yes.
At that point.
Yes.
It's iPhone versus Android, or Popeyes versus Honey Buddy Fried Chicken, or something like that. I don't know. But I'm hungry. But I mean, I would think that you're paying for that. There's the value element where you're willing to overlook a couple of things, but then there's you're paying for a premium. You're expecting kind of to be wowed. For certain.
And that's the presentation. And it's funny, I'm not one to spend a lot of money getting homes ready for market. I'm not going to be, let's totally revamp the kitchen, revamp this. But once again, something that I always say is make sure you are the best version of yourself.
Right.
You want to make sure that everything that you have presents in the best fashion, right? You want to be impeccable. You want to be shiny. You don't have to be the latest and greatest, but you have to be the best of who and what you are. And staging is something that, we've talked about it ad nauseum on this show. Staging is something that earns its money back time and time again. Staging can allow you to maybe not be quite as impeccable in certain instances. But if somebody walks into a home and it feels tired or worn or just a little hard to wrap your head around, it's much harder to create that momentum.
All right. So we've gone through this. We haven't painted a really bright picture, which I was really kind of hoping to do today. But for buyers who are listening and feeling frustrated right now, there's got to be people out there who are watching this who are just beaten down right now. What takeaways would you give them? What advice?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a hard market.
Yeah.
And I think the honest truth is always a good one. I always say that I'm honest with people because I respect them. If I don't respect you, I won't be honest with you. If I don't respect you and I'm going to tell you this is going to be easy, that would be me not being honest.
Right.
So it is going to be hard, but I think that it's really important to keep perspective.
Yep.
And to understand certain things about the particular market. For example, there are certain markets that I think will definitely ease up starting June.
Sure.
What markets are those? You have a huge rental turnover ending in May and ending in June. We know this. This is factual. And a lot of those people are saying, okay, I'm going to commit to renting for another year and I'm going to try again next year. Now, for me, that is some of the worst advice I think an agent could give somebody. Okay, let's jump back into this market next year and do this fun ride again. But like, it's that patience of knowing the second half of the year could provide some opportunities for people,
Right.
and saying, okay, don't, just because the lease timeline is something, don't fixate on that. We have so many of our clients find success in the second half of the year. And I think a lot of agents are so centered in on the first half of the year. They kind of, kick up their feet a little bit in the second half of the year. Second half of the year, we're just getting started.
Right.
So I think patience is a really big thing. I think perspective is a really big thing. The reason why I tell my clients is that it's hard is the minute they feel that frustration, they're going to say, aha, Amanda said this was going to be hard. We must not be the only people in all of Chicago that are struggling with this.
Right.
They're going to kind of identify with those pieces. You need to understand that the pace of the market, you need to turn it off a little bit. Sometimes all of the apps and everything like that, seeing it come on, seeing it go off, seeing all these things, that can make people a little bit crazy.
Sure.
Once I start to get a sense of what my clients really, truly like, a lot of times I tell them, like, I got this.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you when to look at that. I'm going to notify you on this specific property, because those cycles of just seeing things, that I think that the more you know what you want, the harder it feels.
Right.
Because the more properties come your way that aren't going to work.
Right.
So you're making great progress and doing good work, but it feels more frustrating because you said, I just discounted the last 10.
Yeah.
Well, that's because we already went through that good work and that legwork. So I do think that, on top of it all, and we say this so much, it's about having a partnership, having a team that understands how to navigate this. This is a market that I never wanted to be an expert in.
Yep.
Right? And God knows, after 24 years of doing this, I've been experts in certain types of markets that I didn't want to be a part of. But I think that really making sure that whomever you're choosing to work with is helping to make you feel supported,
Yep.
heard,
Yep.
comfortable, and how to navigate this, because there is a huge emotional, compassionate piece that needs to be managed right now.
Okay, then let's flip that. You've got people who are either looking to move to the suburbs, they're facing the exact same thing, or people who are looking on the market and that comes to fruition. And they're all of a sudden they're going to become sellers in July instead of what they thought was going to be February or something like that. What would be your seller takeaways for people kind of going forward who are going to be coming to the market for the rest of the year?
I think confidence is a really important piece.
For sure.
And I think that is it's a market that we have to acknowledge. It's easy to get contracts and it's hard to get them to the finish line. I think that there has to be a huge understanding of that, and that understanding that the way that we navigate successfully through things is to, once again, do so in a manner that it's not always the highest price. It's not always the shiniest piece, right? It's about understanding the logistics of how real estate truly works and having confidence in, once again, your team to help navigate that. Because when things go wrong in this market, they can go very wrong. And that's something that I think is important to, once again, come back and have the confidence in the people that are advising you, because we're knee deep in the trenches. Yeah. And it's an ugly trench, and it's not very fun. And it's not easy to be a seller in this market, because here's the news flash. If you're a seller in this market, the likelihood is that you're probably a buyer too.
Right.
And then there's a whole new layer of complexity of how do we do that dance? It comes back to surrounding yourself with people that give you confidence that you can navigate a time that is very tricky and not linear.
Gotcha. Do you expect to see anything wildly different going into the next half of the year?
Wildly different? No. I mean, my takeaway, hope, prayer, all of the above. I think the markets will stay competitive throughout 2026.
Yep.
I think people are numb to rates. I think people are numb to the news. I think there's a lot of people that need housing.
Yep.
So I think it will remain competitive. I do expect inventory to shrink. That's the reality.
Yep.
But I also think
not make any moves.
Yeah, I mean, or stay stagnant, one of the two, not grow. How about that? I think that some of the competition will wane as well. Once again, that comes back to that bad advice of, let's try it again next year, honey. Sure. So I do think that the competition will start to wane a little bit as well. And that's not to say it won't be competitive. In my experience, in my thought process, it'll be a little bit less competitive. So I'm all for going up in competition without being insane.
Yep.
I don't want to be throwing Hail Marys. I want to be writing good, constructive offers that get everyone to the finish line.
There you have it.
We did it.
We did it.
Until next time, Chicago.
Until next time.